Hi everyone, I just wanted to give a quick video on this week's selecting topic and assignment. And um, just before we get started, in case you're looking at my video, you will notice that there are a pair of shoes in the bookcase, and that's because we have a new puppy and she eats shoes, so that's why my husband's shoes are in the bookcase. Anyway, so now that that's out of the way, um, there's no one way to do a selection in libraries. Some librarians do it weekly, some do it monthly, some do it yearly. It just depends on your workload and how much time you have, how much money you have, things like that. I would suggest that you do it as often as you can so that you catch new titles that are coming out, because no one likes to wait for titles that have been published and are in bookstores or wherever, or on Amazon, and they're not in the library. So if at all possible, even uh, select them ahead of time, and then when they're published, they'll be sent to your library. So you don't have to wait till they're already published for them to be chosen. When I last worked in a public library, I selected titles all the time, but I guess I pushed the button to buy once a month. So I had a book budget I collected for the adult nonfiction, and I divided it by 12, and so I knew that every month I had a certain amount to buy. So the first thing you want to do is consult your collection development policy that you have to make sure you know how you should be selecting titles, what titles you should be selecting, and the parameters and things like that. A lot of collection development policies will talk about reviews. And one thing I wanted to mention about reviews is not all titles are reviewed. Computer books, for dummies books, cookbooks. I mean, some cookbooks are reviewed, but many aren't. Many titles are just never reviewed. There's so many titles out there, it's not possible for all titles to be reviewed. And books like for dummies books, they're all kind of the same, so there's really no need to review them. Computer books aren't often reviewed, but sometimes they are. So just keep that in mind if you only buy from reviews and you're looking at nonfiction, for instance. You might miss titles that or whole subjects because they just aren't reviewed. The next thing I want to mention is working with a vendor. You'll have a vendor. You need to buy your books from somewhere. You can buy them from Amazon, although I don't recommend it, but I understand if you're in a tight money situation and you need them fast, Amazon's an option. I really do recommend having a regular vendor such as Ingram, Follett, Baker & Taylor, or any of the others out there. They can work for you. They can do cataloging and processing if you want it and need it. They can help you with collection development with suggested titles, and they can do all sorts of things. So I recommend that you use the full potential of the vendor that you have. And if you don't like your vendor, then look for other options if you're in the position to do so. You don't have to stay with one vendor unless there's a reason that you have to. So I also wanted to talk about review copies. Sometimes you'll get print review copies at your library, and other times you can go looking for digital review copies. For instance, in Edelweiss and NetLibrary, they do digital review copies, and I think I gave links to that this week. So go ahead and just find a book you want to download and read right now, and as a review copy. That's always an option. The other thing about at least Edelweiss, and I don't remember about NetGalley, you'll have to look at that, but Edelweiss often uploads some page spreads. So for instance, if you are buying cookbooks and you want to see what the pages look like, what the recipes look like, you can do that. in Edelweiss, and also children's books. If you want to see the illustrations, you can do that as well. So I really enjoy selecting titles. It's almost like shopping therapy, right? Without using my money. It's just a great thing. Side note, as in noted in your textbook, selecting, you need to be aware of your own biases. And I think that's an important thing as a librarian to always keep in check, because it's so easy when you're selecting to select what you like, whether subconsciously or consciously, and to ignore what you don't. So you need to be conscious of that to make sure you select the best titles for your patrons, regardless if they're your favorite titles or not. So just keep that in mind. So I hope that you enjoy this week with selecting, and next week we're going to talk about weeding, which can also be fun. Oh, I wanted to talk a little bit about process first. When I became a librarian, the process I was taught, and I think this is a good process. Say I was in charge of the mysteries, the adult mysteries in a library. Often librarians, if you're in a larger library, you have a section of books that you are responsible for. That means that you are responsible for selecting, weeding, etc. The whole thing. So if I am in charge of the mystery books, periodically I'm going to go and actually go to the shelf with an empty book cart. I'm going to fill that book cart up with books from the shelf in order. I'm going to take it back to my desk, and I'm going to go in order, make sure that put the books in order. I'm going to check with my system, and we need to talk about ILS systems too, right? You're going to have an ILS system. You're going to have a Follett Discovery, or you're going to have iPage, not iPage, I'm sorry, Polaris or Horizon, or one of the other Millennium, one of the other ILS systems with your catalog. And in your catalog, you have a patron side view where people look up books, right? But you also have the staff view, which you might not have seen yet if you don't work in a library. But on the other side of the catalog in your ILS system is the staff view of things, and that's where librarians and staff can see circulation information. Sorry. Okay, so that's where you can see circulation information, title information for each item in the catalog. So for instance, when I pull those books off the shelf and put them in my cart one by one, I can inspect them each to see if they're still in good condition. I can look each one up in the catalog quickly with the barcode, because I'll have a scanner probably. And when I scan it, I can see how many times it's been checked out, when we got it, how long we've had it, how long it's been since it's been checked out. And also I can print off a shelf report, which I will have done first, actually. So say that I have the mysteries. I'm going to print out a shelf report of all the mysteries that we own. And this shelf report will tell me whether the title is in at the moment, or out, or on hold, or missing, or lost. So when I go to grab those books off the shelf, I should know if I'm missing a title. Now, if there's a title that says it's in but it's not, I'll want to look around to see if it's out of order or where that title is. I might mark it missing so that we can look for it. Anyway, some people, select and weed kind of remotely without actually going to the shelf and looking at the titles. I guess I believe in the old-fashioned way. Plus, doing it this way, I get to know what titles I have, so that when I'm at the reference desk, I can say, oh yeah, we do have that cookbook, and I know right where that is because I have seen it myself, I've touched it, and all that. So I know some people don't have time for this, or the system is not set up that way, but I personally prefer to go cart by cart, look through every book periodically, and it's up to you how often you do that. But when I do this, at the same time, I can choose titles that I want to weed out because they're old, they haven't been checked out in a very long time, or they are not in good condition, I need to buy a new one, all sorts of things, and all those will depend on your library and your budget and all your parameters. So each place will be different for that, but I like to do that at that time. So if I decide to weed it, then I might look for another title that is newer that I can buy and replace it with, or perhaps it's a really well-loved title, but it's just getting worn out and I want to buy a new copy. Something like maybe The Joy of Cooking, because, people always, that's kind of a classic in cookbooks, so you'll always want to have The Joy of Cooking. In mysteries, maybe it's an Agatha Christie title that you always want to have, but it gets worn out periodically, so you're not going to really know that unless you go to the shelf and look at the title. And you can set up in your ILS reports for all sorts of things. You can set up reports to alert you when a title's been checked out so many times so that you can go look at the shelf. Say one of the Agatha Christie books has been checked out 25 times, so you want to go look at it to make sure that it's not too worn out yet. Also, I just wanted to mention that a lot of weeding situations get taken care of at the circulation desk, because when they come back in, if they're in terrible condition for one reason or another, they got wet, they got peanut butter smeared all over them, they got crunched, all sorts of things can happen to books. But often the circulation staff will set them aside and mark them damaged and alert the librarians to that so that you can buy a new one if you choose to. So it's not that going to the shelf as a librarian is the only way people, books are marked damaged, but it's always a good practice, I think. So I hope you have fun this week. Selecting is fun in my opinion, and try to have fun with the assignment. Thanks.